Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ladies Power Lunch. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am really excited because we have with us somebody who's going to talk to us about something that we might be a little hesitant to uncover, but that's so important for us to focus in on. I have the amazing, the one, the only Nancy Berger, and she's going to be talking to us about our fears. Nancy, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. This is amazing. And can you tell us, just share with everybody, I know who you are. I love what you do, but can you share with everybody who you are and what it is that you're doing in the world?
Sure, Davia, thank you so much for having me and for all your patience with all my tech issues. And hi, everybody. Good day, good afternoon. My name is Nancy Berger, and I am a fear strategist. So what that means is I spend my time helping people change their relationship with fear. I target women, and my goal is to empower them to better understand the things that hold them back and keep them stuck, if it's in a career path or a relationship path or a parenting path or even a creativity rut. I help people understand the things that might be getting in the way and how they can maybe reframe those thoughts and pivot into a different path for themselves.
I love that. You know, we have a lot of hesitation when it comes to leaning into any kind of discussion, whether it is with other people or even within ourselves, about fears that we might have. So what do you have to say about this whole idea of tuning into your fears?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Davia, and I think that speaks to the core of my work. So in other words, fear has been sort of characterized by society in large part as something bad. And I think particularly for women and young women, and I have an adult daughter, so this really does resonate, they're sort of taught that fearlessness is the goal. And I have a fundamental disagreement with that concept, because fearlessness doesn't exist in any reality. And only when you can understand your fears can you then, and befriend them, can you then use them as an informative tool. Because what we're afraid of tells us a lot about ourselves. But what happens is we spend so much time trying to stuff it away or crawl over the top of it. We become really good at not knowing what those things are because they get ignored. But my premise is, if you really face them and understand them, it's a gift, and it really can help you build a path forward that feels good in your skin.
So when people come in to talk to you, what do you find is showing up most often? What's the thing that people are struggling with the most?
There's a couple of things, and I have a survey that I've been running for about a year, and I've been gathering a lot of data, so the data does back this up. The two primary things that people grapple with are making a big change in a work situation or making a big change in a relationship. And I can't really sort of break that down if it's personal relationships or friend relationships or what kind of work dynamics we're talking about, but those seem to be two big issues. And my experience does bear that out, because the people I talk to usually do talk about, I'm in a marriage that's not working and I don't know what to do. There's a lot of fear around that, around, being by themselves. Women don't understand their money situation. They don't understand what their risks are. And the other thing on the professional side is women that are successful and accomplished, but still grapple with, dynamics with colleagues, or how to stand in their power when they're talking to management or whatever it is. So those are two pretty big areas.
Yep, I would absolutely have to agree with you that, as a physician, it's interesting because people come in and they talk to me about things that are absolutely not related to their health issues, but also absolutely related to their health issues.
Yes.
And very, very often it's those two areas that show up, and that might even be, might I say, contributing to their discomfort and their disease condition.
You might absolutely
right?
say that, because science bears us out, right, Davia? We know that the mind-body connection is huge, and you
Yes.
can make yourself sick
Yes.
with these things if you don't work them out. Yep.
Absolutely. So let's just put a nail on that. Let's just, uncover the lid of what really the mechanics of this are. If you were to say to somebody, these are the things that you need to do, these are the steps that you need to take to really face and uncover your fears, what would it be that you would say to a person?
Well, I've actually created an entire curriculum around it, and I call it the fear formula. And what it represents is the acronym of fear: find, enlighten, accept, and reframe your fear-based thoughts. So that the curriculum underneath that teaches people to identify the fears and sort of deconstruct them. And that requires some reflection work. I work with a template that I created that gets people to kind of dig into their young genius, their early modeling, their first family dynamics, and understand maybe what has helped them cultivate their unique relationship with fear.
Sure.
And then the enlighten step is really kind of I teach actionable strategies to kind of help you, reconfigure your brain wiring. Discerning between fear fact and fear fiction is one of them, because we create a lot of narratives in our daily life that we may not even realize we're doing. Accepting the fear, taking agency, understanding that it's part of your fabric, and then embracing it. And I teach other strategies around that. And then the reframing piece, which is the core of everything, is practicing how to shift your thinking. It's like a new skill, like a language or learning to play an instrument. I teach things that have to be practiced so that people get muscle memory on how to, change the way I'm thinking about that. Because we all create stories all day long, and they're not necessarily true, but we look for reasons to believe them. It's just neuroscience.
Absolutely. I want you to say a little bit more about two things. I want you to say a little bit more about that fear fact versus fear fiction, because what I know is that for the most part, I am really good at imagining things going way worse than they ever do. So say a little bit about that.
Yeah, you're not alone. By any stretch of the imagination. We all do it all day long. So let's just take a quick example that I've used in my workshops, whatever. So you get invited to go out with a friend, and you at first say yes, and then at the last minute you cancel because you have a headache. And then, in 2 hours, you get a text from a friend that's going to leave the country the next day because they got deployed. And you quickly take 3 Advil and you go meet that friend for a cup of coffee. Okay. The friend that invited you that you canceled at the last minute is gonna see you on social media and make this whole story about how you always wanted to go out with the other one, and you made an excuse, and you lied, and you betrayed. That's fiction. We all do it. Oh, well, they must have done this because of this. It's not fact, but we might have every reason to believe that that's what happened, but that doesn't mean it's fact. So I actually do teach a skill where I have people fill out columns. Here's a scenario. What's the fact? What's the fiction? It is not easy for people to do always, to identify what's real, because then that requires us to actually confront the other person and say in a kind way, I felt this when I discovered you were out with a friend. I felt this. Stay in your lane. Don't say, well, you went out and you did this and you made me feel that. That's fictional, right? But it's just automatic. We're so used to doing it. It just takes some practice to stop doing it.
I love that example. And I feel as though it's an example that we can all relate
Right.
to. It's something that resonates with every single one of us. And
Right.
I also love that you have a workshop that you have attached to that. So we might have to ask you back to one of our bigger events to come talk to us about that and work us through that, because I feel like that's something that we could all benefit from. So
Yeah.
say a little bit more now about the practice. How do you practice getting into the face of your fear and getting beyond that?
So I call it meta thinking. It really requires that we stop believing every thought we have, because thoughts, unlike feelings, are choices. Feelings are not choices. They come in, they flood us, and we feel them, and we're entitled to every one of them, and there's no bad feeling. Thoughts are choices we make on an ongoing basis. So what I encourage clients and students and people that I work with to do is to notice the thought instead of believe the thought automatically. And it takes conditioning, like, working out or anything that you do and get good at. And I do it with myself and my own thoughts all the time. Oh, okay, I'm having a thought right now and it's not sitting well with me. Why am I having this thought, and what is it based on? Is it based on fact, or is it based on my own narrative? And I've gotten so good at doing it that it's more or less automatic. But for people starting out, I not only get eye rolls about it, it's like, well, I can't change my thinking. It just takes time and sort of commitment, you know what I mean, to really get good at it. But it is possible. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I totally agree that it takes practice. Just like anything else, it takes practice. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the don'ts, the things to avoid. What are we doing wrong?
Well, I don't think we're doing anything wrong. I think we're doing what we are conditioned to do as human beings, right? We evolved and we got this far by being afraid. Fear is a very important experience for the human being, or we wouldn't have gotten this far. But as we've evolved as a species and gotten, and our communities and our societies have gotten complicated, so have the fears, right? And they've moved from that fight or flight, we're going to run from the tiger, to the cortex where, oh, I'm going to sit and marinate in this thought until it drives me crazy. And then I'm going to create all these narratives that, in a friend relationship, it might not be as big a deal because you can sit down with them, have a cup of coffee and work it out. In a work situation, it can be dicier. Yes. If you start working based off narratives that are not necessarily true, you could hurt your career path, you could hurt your relationships there. So I would say what I would try to avoid is believing your thoughts. I think that's a don't. Notice your thoughts and validate them naturally. I'm not saying, thoughts are all inconsequential or meaningless. Of course, they're meaningful. But understand where they're coming from. And I think some of this deep work about how we cultivated our fear relationship as young people, it all starts with that. I'm not a therapist. I never try to pretend that I am, but I've been in therapy for the better part of 25 years. I have cultivated these strategies I teach because of my own life experience of leaving a 27-year marriage, of making really difficult life-changing decisions, and then tapping into these strategies to get me through, and they worked beautifully. So I figured, let me try to help other people do the same thing and maybe save a little time in the process.
I find that it is sometimes from the areas where we have learned so much that we're able to teach the best. So from your life experience, it's brought you here and given you the opportunity to be able to help all of us here today. So this is a wonderful thing. Definitely learning from the contrast. Yeah. Tell me about any technology or any books or any apps or anything out there that you think might be helpful for us to learn how to be better with our fears.
Well, I've been reading an awful lot about this for years. One of the books that I've recently read that I really appreciated is titled Permission to Feel, and it's by Mark Brackett, who's a Yale neuroscientist. And it is eye-opening for the person who might be just starting to learn about how fear manifests, because a clear message from the book is that we are not good at identifying our feelings. We are not good at it as a society. And in fact, we've kind of been discouraged from doing it. But emotional intelligence is really trending as an important skill that companies are looking for, that can help people really grow in their lives. So I would say that's a tremendous book to take a look at.
I love that you've recommended that, and I would invite you to go on over into the Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group and just post that resource so that the women there can connect with that. As a matter of fact, I'll tag you on our reading list, and that way you can add it to our book list for the year. But it's
Wonderful.
interesting that you mentioned that, because I can tell you that we really, really are not always in touch with our feelings. I was just talking with somebody yesterday and mentioning that for a very, very long time, I was, I'm going to use the word confused, but maybe that's not the right word. I wasn't really sure about what it was that I was feeling. And whenever I would feel this particular feeling, I would think, okay, my energy levels have dipped. Maybe I need a power bar. And routinely, I would go get a protein bar, but it wasn't a hungry feeling. It was that I needed a nap.
And see, that's what I mean. You said, I'm not sure confused is the right word, because we have difficulty articulating our feelings. And then you discovered that once you sat with yourself and kind of let it bubble up and gave it space, then I'm a little tired. I need to take a rest. But it takes time and patience with yourself. And in these busy times when everybody's juggling 300 things, people aren't prone to doing that.
And I think we were just talking about this before we went on camera. We were all talking about just how important it is to tune in to what your inner knowing really is, because so very often we listen to everything else that is external and we don't tune in to what it is that we really, really know. So this is so exciting. I'm going to open it up to our audience that we have with us here today. I'm so excited that we were able to have all these women join us. And I just want to give you guys the opportunity to ask Nancy any questions or make any comments or suggest any concerns that you might have. I noticed you all were taking very diligent notes, so I know that you definitely have something to say. Marianne, you want to start?
Sure. Thank you, Nancy. This is just so good.
You're welcome.
My biggest thing was, again, the notice your thoughts rather than believe your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
That is just so, that's my key takeaway. So this is just perfect for me.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. I actually have a plaque in my office that says, "Don't believe everything you think." It's my mantra.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that resonated.
Can somebody make that into a t-shirt? That's amazing.
Yes.
I love it. Awesome.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Galina, did you have any thoughts about what Nancy has to offer us today?
I think it's just a great insight. And I have to say, definitely, I see a lot of this, I guess, fear from women that face, especially after the divorce or after a spouse dies, and they are just lost.
Yes.
They don't know what to do. And I think it's really, really helpful. I actually would like to connect with you, and possibly somebody needs your help.
Yes.
Maybe. So it's really good.
Good.
Thank
Great. I'm so
sharing.
glad.
Awesome. And Michelle, how about you? I saw you taking tons of notes. That was interesting. You're muted, Michelle. It's okay. It happens all the time.
I always forget.
It's okay.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I've been following you for quite some time on LinkedIn, and that's how I found out about this today. And it was really timely, because just in the last couple of days, this topic of fear has actually been my own focus, because I've just sort of become aware of the fearful thoughts that I have, and at times I can actually become paralyzed by them. Yes. And it gives me a lot of anxiety, and I've started to step back and pay attention to them and try to figure out what's real and what isn't real. But the way you've explained it today makes it even easier for me to look at when you talk about what you should believe and what you shouldn't. And well, I've been pulling apart the thoughts and the fears. I hadn't gone as far as to think about whether or not it was true. So that's really, really helpful for me. So thank you for that.
You are welcome. That makes my day. Thank you for sharing that.
Awesome. And Shauna Lee, did you have anything that you wanted to say to Nancy before we close out today?
Sure. I want to say I'm very glad to be here and to have heard your words. I found them to be very nourishing and very healthy to hear. And it's always a good thing to just to be reminded to be more mindful and aware of our thoughts and throughout the day, because it's something we wake up and carry with us, like Billy Joel said in his songs.
So true. So
And you know,
true.
if Billy Joel said it in the songs, then it has to be true, right? Nancy, it's been so wonderful having you here. I was really looking forward to this with great anticipation and for good reason. And I'm looking forward to having you back on one of our shows or one of our summits or something like that. So
Thank you. I'm looking forward to the summit in March. So
Yes.
that will be really great. So thank you all for taking the time. And Davia, thank you for your welcome. And I'll talk again soon with you.
Well, before you go, just tell us one more thing. If people want to connect with you, how is that possible? What's your website? Do you have any upcoming programs or anything like that?
I'll put my website in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me there, email me there. You could see my articles and the different things that I've been up to. So that's really a great way to connect with me. And I also post events and upcoming workshops and things in there. So that's really the best way. You can go scroll down and subscribe to my free newsletter, and then you'll get notified when things are going on. It's free. You just drop in your email, and then you'll get my newsletter every month.
Oh, okay. So for those of you listening on the podcast, her website is nancyrberger.com. So you can connect with her that way. Nancy, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Everybody who joined, thank you so much. You have enriched our day. Really happy to have you. And I just invite you all to hop on over to our Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group, join our community there. There are so many wonderful, amazing women there who are intentionally supporting each other, making sure that we grow our businesses, improve our impact, and our income. Have a great day, everybody, and thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.